Hello everyone, and welcome to the weapon comparison series for Insurgency Sandstorm. I am Mr. Rain, and today I will be looking at two weapons. One is the AK-74 and the other is the Alpha AK. Now the AK-74 is available for the Insurgent faction for the Riflemen, whereas the Alpha AK is available for, again, the Insurgent faction, but for the Advisor class. And so essentially I just wanted to point out a few differences between these two and just see how different they actually are. So starting off with the AK-74, it shoots a 5.45 by 39mm, a vertical recoil of 25, a horizontal of 7, a high velocity of 900 meters per second, and a decent fire rate of 652 rounds per minute, with a penetration of 316, a mag capacity of 30, and then full auto and single fire. The AK-74 costs 4 supply points out of the bat, whichever one you prefer to call it. And your foregrip and compensator are both 3 supply points each. So let's just go ahead and load up the AK-74. And so looking at the iron sights, they're very clean, very easy to look through, very minimalistic. So absolutely no issue being able to see what you're shooting at and anything that's in a close range or close proximity. Just overall great irons. So let's go ahead and run the recoil test. Alright, so we're shooting the AK-74 full auto. And no foregrip. In 3, 2, 1. So pretty much exactly what we saw in the stats. More vertical than horizontal. Very easy to keep control of and keep pretty much condensed. It's a little similar again to the M4, it's just slightly more vertical than that. So with that said, let's go ahead and look at the Alpha AK. So the Alpha AK shoots a 7.62 by 39, a vertical recoil of 26, a horizontal of 10, a velocity of 670 meters per second, and a fire rate of 625 rounds per minute, and a higher penetration of 343, standard 30 round mag capacity, and full auto and single fire, and foregrip and compensator are both 3 supply points each. So it's pretty much on par with the AK-74 in regards to point balance and supply cost. So let's go ahead and load it up and see what it looks like.
Alright, I'm good.
So the big notice is, of course, the irons. They look a lot closer to a security weapon than a typical Alpha or a typical AK. Overall, they're decent. I don't really like the bars on the left and right side. It's a little bit cluttered, but again, it's not too bad for me. I would prefer using an actual optic, which probably right now makes this maybe one of the worst ones that we've seen, one of the worst irons we've seen in the game so far, for me having to say that. So let's go ahead and run the recoil test. Okay, so we're going to run the Alpha AK, North foregrip, in 3, 2, 1. So there's definitely more vertical recoil on this than there is in the AK, which makes sense because it's a heavier bullet. But in regards to the overall cluster, they are very similar. And it's a good thing for this gun. With a reasonable fire rate that's very similar to the AK-74, you're getting a lot more damage per shot with the Alpha AK. And it's a very powerful weapon just overall. Just being able to do that with a 7.62 compared to 5.56 ammo. When the difference is that small, it's hard to not recommend the Alpha AK over it. Like I said, the Alpha AK does have more vertical recoil. You will have to fight the gun more than you do with the AK-74. But if you can get your first shot to be low and let your recoil take care of climbing, then you'll be fine. But if you do aim high a lot, then the Alpha AK may hurt you a little bit with that. So, as we always do, this is not the end. We're going to go ahead and we're going to reload this map and run a recoil test again, but with a foregrip. Alright, so looking at the AK-74 yet again, the standard 3 supply points for a foregrip, very simple. So let's go ahead and just run the recoil test with it. So this is full auto AK-74 with foregrip. 3, 2, 1. And although this looks sloppy, believe it or not, it's a lot easier to shoot with a foregrip than without. Especially with this weapon, because it is designed with a lot more vertical than horizontal. So I was able to aim lower and keep the spread lower and just have overall better control with each and every shot. Very smooth gun to fire when you have a foregrip attached to it. So let's go ahead and look at the damage we can deal with the Alpha AK. So just like with the AK-74, the foregrip for the Alpha AK is also 3 supply points for a total of 7. Very easy, very affordable in regards to the amount of supply points you typically get. So let's go ahead and run the recoil test. Alright, so Alpha AK, foregrip, in 3, 2, 1. So, very similar to what we see with the AK-74. Again, it does make it easier to shoot. It is a heavier bullet, so it does climb quicker than the 74, and it does require a little more compensation to keep the recoil from going too far up. But all in all, I was able to keep it very similar to the two. So with that being said, in regards to versatility and power, I would give the Alpha AK the win. It's just a stronger bullet, heavier rounds, easier, and it's just as easy to shoot as the AK-74. And it's also priced at the same exact points, so there's really no going wrong with picking the Alpha AK over it. The only downside to the Alpha AK, in my opinion, is those iron sights. They're not horrible, but I personally do think they're not the greatest out there. I probably would put this a little worse than the G36K or the VHS. So keep that in mind. You may want to add another supply point to give the Alpha AK an optic. But all in all, it's just it's just as steady a gun as the AK-74 with just slightly more power. So there's no reason to not choose it. And when it comes to the AK-74, it's a great gun. It shoots really well. It shoots very quick. It's a 5.56, and you know the iron sights are perfect for it. So I guess in a strange way, in versatility, the AK-74 is just slightly better, just because you don't have to add an extra supply point for those iron sights. But all in all, these are just very similar weapons that you can say go either way, but just from the amount of damage you put out, just to show, you're going from that to that. There's definitely a big enough difference for me to recommend the Alpha AK over the AK-74. And just to say it, and just to be clear, the Alpha AK does have slightly more recoil. You will feel it, but it doesn't take long to learn it and master it and become very competent with the weapon. So that will be it for today's episode. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.